My dear friends, welcome to my channel, WorldStoryMind, where stories become alive in your mind. I'm Ms Sonu, and I'm the narrator for all the stories on this channel. I bring you stories from around the world in a traditional, calm storytelling manner where your mind can focus and your creativity and imagination can truly bloom. Please show your support by hitting the like button, sharing this video, and subscribing to my channel. Your support will help me create more content and keep the magic of storytelling alive. Without any further delay, let's begin. Once upon a time, deep in the forgotten corner of the world, there lived a small, furry little squirrel named Quiggles. Now, Quiggles wasn't like other squirrels at all. She spent her entire life in the shadows, darting from one cozy nook to the other. She loved the silence and the stillness, the dark places where the light never reached. It was all she had known, and it was all she ever needed. At least that's what she thought. Until one day, everything changed. There was a sound so loud, so terrible, that it made every creature in the forest freeze in fear. A sound that shook the trees and rattled the very ground beneath their paws. This is Quiggles' story, and it begins with a deafening sound. Imagine this, a forest thick and dark, where there's only a few brave rays of sunlight that manage to sneak through the canopy. The trees stretch tall and crooked, their branches twisted like old bony fingers. The forest floor is damp and shadowed, with soft moss beneath your feet. And then suddenly, boom! The roar, so loud, so powerful, that it shook the very ground beneath Quiggles' tiny paws. Birds scattered from the trees, leaves trembled, and the forest itself seemed to gasp. Quiggles, who had been nibbling on a tiny seed inside her favorite hollow log, froze mid-chew. She had never heard anything like that before. Her heart raced. What was that? She whispered to herself, her tiny body trembling. Around her, the other creatures were in panic, chattering frantically. "It is the end of the world!" cried the chipmunks. "The sky is falling!" cried the jays, but Quiggles wasn't so sure. She didn't want to run and hide. No. She is curious, remember? So her curiosity, small but stubborn, tugged at her. She simply needed to know. I have to find out, she thought, her heart pounding with both fear and excitement. Stepping out of her comfortable hiding place wasn't easy. Every rustle of leaves, every crack of a twig made her flinch. But something inside her, a spark she hadn't known was there, pushed her forward. With each step she took, the forest seemed more alive, the air thick with nervous energy, animals darting past her, running the opposite direction, away from the sound. But Quiggles? She was heading straight towards it. She climbed over fallen logs, squeezed through tangled vines, and as she moved deeper into the forest, something strange started to happen. The trees, the birds, the whole forest felt different. It was as if the very ground beneath her was calling her forward, whispering to her. And then, finally, she reached it. The edge of the clearing. In front of her was a sight Quiggles had never seen before. A huge stone stood in the middle of the clearing, cracked down in the middle, and it was glowing. Not just any light, but an eerie, pulsing glow that seemed to hum in the air. It was like the stone held something very deep inside, something really powerful. The animals who dared to come close gathered around. But they didn't move any closer. They whispered among themselves, fear creeping in their voices. "It's a monster," one cried. "No, it's magic," said another. Their eyes wide with wonder. But Quiggles? She wasn't afraid anymore. She didn't even hesitate. She was fascinated. Her tiny body, barely more than a speck in the vast clearing, stepped forward toward the stone, closer and closer still. Now, Quiggles didn't really know what she would find, but she knew one thing for certain. She had to get closer. The animals gasped as she took a step forward. "Quiggles, no!" they cried, fear in their voices. But Quiggles didn't stop. Her tiny paws moved towards the stone, her eyes full of determination. And when she finally reached it, she placed her paw upon its cracked surface. The moment her paw touched the stone, something magical happened. The humming stopped, the glow softened, and the stone felt warm, almost alive. And then, in a voice deeper than the oldest trees, the stone spoke. The stone told Quiggles a secret older than the forest itself. It had been guarding the heart of the forest for thousands of years, keeping it safe from harm. The sound Quiggles had heard, that was the sound of the stone awakening. And now it needed Quiggles. The tiniest creature, the quietest, the one no one expected to be a hero. It entrusted her with a spark of its magic, a tiny ember glowing within its crack. "Use it wisely," the stone said, "and the forest will heal." The glow from the stone intensified all of a sudden, wrapping Quiggles in a golden, pulsating light. Her eyes wide, curious as the stone begins to speak in a resonant, ancient voice. The stone told Quiggles a tale older than the forest itself, a time when the world was dark and cold, when creatures huddled in fear of endless night. But the stone had held a secret all this time, the power to bring warmth and light to the world. "This spark," it said, "is the first fire, but it must be awakened and shared with all living beings." Quiggles looked at the ember glowing faintly in the heart of the snow. It was tiny, almost fragile, yet it radiated a warmth that made her fur tingle. "I can do this," she thought, though her heart thumped wildly. "I have to do this." Now Quiggles reaches into the glowing crack of the stone. As her paw touches the ember, a surge of energy courses through her, lifting her slightly off the ground. The forest around her seems to be holding its breath. But taking the ember wasn't simple. As Quiggles grasped it, a wave of challenges appeared before her eyes. Stormy winds, pouring rain, and creatures of the shadow trying to snuff out the flame. "The fire will test your courage," the stone warned. Quiggles, trembling but determined, cradled the ember and stepped forward. Every shadow loomed larger, every gust of wind colder, but she shielded the flame with her tiny body. Her thoughts raced. This isn't just for me, it's for everyone. So Quiggles emerges from the trial, her fur slightly singed, but her spirit unbroken. The ember in her paws now glows brightly, lighting up the entire clearing. The other animals gather, their fear replaced by awe and wonder. When Quiggles finally returned to the clearing, the ember had transformed into a small, steady flame. The forest, once dark and cold, was now bathed in warm, golden light. The creatures, one by one, came forward, each taking a piece of the fire to warm their burrows and nests. The flame didn't just bring light and warmth, it brought hope, uniting the creatures of the forest in a way they had never known. Quiggles had done something extraordinary. She had carried the first fire and shared it with the world. And so, Quiggles, the little squirrel who once lived in shadows, became a legend. The first fire changed the forest forever, and it all started with the courage to face the unknown. Quiggles perched on a high branch, looking out to the forest, glowing with countless tiny fires. Her face lit with a mix of pride and contentment. And so, Quiggles, the little squirrel, who once lived in shadows, became a legend. The first fire changed the forest forever, and it all started with her courage to face the unknown. Quiggles returned to the forest not as a timid squirrel who lived in the shadows, but as a hero. The forest began to heal, and the creatures inspired by her bravery learned to face their fears. And Quiggles? She learned that sometimes the smallest steps lead to the biggest adventures. So, dear friends, next time you are faced with something unknown, think about Quiggles and her journey into the light. Who knows? You might have a spark of magic waiting for you too. Whenever you sit by a warm, lit fire, remember Quiggles and the spark that started it all. And maybe, just maybe, there's a little ember of her bravery inside you too. Until next time, keep chasing the light, stay curious and brave. Bye for now.